So ask Khalid. He should know. It's a switch.
No, if you're actually like physically turned off the mic.
No, 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 no. True. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Tonight's lesson will be on explanation of Lu'lu Wal-Marjan فيما اتفق عليه الشيخان, authentic compilation of hadiths from Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. We're still in Kitab al-Hajj, chapter number 39, with regards to the recommendation of doing al-ramal or al-khabab, the concept of walking briskly, quickly, miniature running, doing certain circuits or turns of the tawaf. One of the recommended acts of a tawaf and hajj and or umrah. That's the last thing that we explained in last week's class. We're reading from Al-Minhaj of Nawawi, may Allah have mercy on him, and he's interpreting these hadiths with regards to why and when or how the ramal is recommended. Why, how, and when the ramal is recommended. He says, وَالرَّمَلُ مُسْتَحَبٌ فِي الطَّوَافَاتِ الثَّلَاثِ الْأُوَلِ مِنَ السَّبْعِ وَلَا يُسَنُّ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا فِي طَوَافِ الْعُمْرَةِ وفي طواف واحد في الحج واختلفوا في ذلك الطواف وهما قولان للشافعي أصحهما أنه إنما يشرع في طواف يعقبه سعي ويتصور ذلك في طواف القدوم ويتصور في طواف الإفاضة ولا يتصور في طواف الوداع لأن شرط طواف الوداع أن يكون قد طاف للإفاضة فعلى هذا القول إذا طاف للقدوم أو القدوم في نيته أنه يسعى بعده استحب الرمل فيه وإن لم يكن هذا في نيته لم يرمل فيه بل يرمل في طواف الإفاضة والقول الثاني أنه يرمل في طواف القدوم سواء أراد السعي بعده أم لا والله أعلم. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's recommended to do this in the first 3 circuits. 3 out of 7. And the only time this is recommended is when a person is making tawaf for umrah or a person is doing one of the hajj tawafs. This excludes what? What is automatically excluded from this? Tawaf al-wada'. Tayyib. Tawaf al-wada' still could be included. One, it could be wada', it could be ifada. Even though that's excluded. But that's external information so far. When we say is that it's only recommended for 1 or 2 types of tawaf. Either the tawaf during umrah, done, or the tawaf, one of the tawafs of hajj.
So then once excluded, it's a regular tawaf that's not part of
Aywa, normal tawaf, in which the person is making tawaf is not it's not a haji, he's not a pilgrim. He's not a haji, he's not a pilgrim, he's just making his tawaf. He, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, there is no Ramal, period, according to Nawawi. And that's only for someone who is an actual Mu'tamir, a Haji, a pilgrim. Clear. He says here, and as far as, now Umrah, simple. When you're making Umrah, you're going to make the Ramal in the first 3 rounds. As far as when do you do this during Hajj? He says it's only one tawaf. And there are other tawafs during Hajj, such as Wada' or Al-Ifada, Tawaf al-Hajj, the main tawaf, the big tawaf, the grand tawaf, the chief tawaf, right? So it's going to be one of these 2, or just one of them, if not another. Nawawi says they differ concerning this. When is this tawaf? And the correct understanding is that it's supposed to be done during the tawaf, after which is sa'i. A tawaf in which sa'i comes afterwards, and that excludes al-wada'. Once you've done your farewell tawaf, there's no sa'i. It's time to leave, it's time to go home. But al-hajj, tawaf al-ifada, on the 10th day, the day of the Eid, etc., that's going to be a tawaf in which afterwards you're going to make sa'i. Nothing to do with your umrah. Alright, obviously, if you, the different types of hajj we've explained already, qiran, tamattu, etc. Moving forward, Nawawi, he says here, and the reason why this isn't during tawaf al-wada', or the reason why the tawaf al-wada' is the farewell tawaf, he says because tawaf al-wada' you must have had performed the ifada. There is no wada' before or without the ifada. Move forward. All right. Then it goes on to explain some other details and some other views. قال أصحابنا فلو أخل بالرمل في الثلاث الأول من السبع لم يأت به في الأربع الأواخر لأن السنة في الأربع الأخيرة المشي على الأداء فلا يغيره ولو لم يمكنه الرمل للزحمة أشار في هيئة مشيه إلى صفة الرمل ولو لم يمكنه الرمل بقرب الكعبة للزحمة وأمكنه إذا تباعد عنها فالأولى أن يتباعد ويرمل لأن فضيلة الرمل هيئة للعبادة في نفسها والقرب من الكعبة هيئة في موضع العبادة لا في نفسها فكان تقديم ما تعلق بنفسها أولى والله أعلم. Nawawi then gives further fiqh details, further tafsilat, and this is another example and another manifestation of the beautiful merging between ilm al-hadith and between ilm al-fiqh, and ilm al-fiqh and ilm al-hadith coming together and giving birth to the culture of shuruh, hadith explanation. Ilm al-hadith, ilm al-fiqh, of course usul as well, other things, they come together, they merge together, they marry, and then something is born. And that which was born was the culture of commentary on the books of hadith, ash-shuruh. And oftentimes, people they say, I want to read the hadiths, I don't want to read anything else, any madhabi stuff or madhabi guys stuff, etc. The sharih of this book is a madhabi. There's the explainer, the commentator. How thorough his commentary, how transparent his deduction and extraction, how impartial he will be and not be a bigot to his madhab and just explain the hadiths, etc. That's a different story. And that varies from book to book. And that is why some books of explanation, some books of commentary are better than others and more thorough than others, right? But in most cases, there are a few shurrah, there are a few commentators who are not madhabis, that does exist. But the overwhelming majority, the classic, staple, necessary stuff, is going to be a commentator who actually had a madhab. And some of those commentators were totally just, they were fair, they were impartial. Their job was only to make explanation of the hadith and to extract what is to be extracted based off of the principles, and then mention the fiqh differences. And then, as Nawawi says, qala ashabuna, right? Our madhab guys, this is the view that they take from the hadith or not from the hadith. These are the fiqh details that are extracted, or these are the fiqh details not mentioned in the hadith which are needed. But he doesn't interpret the hadith and twist the hadith and warp the hadith based off of a madhab as other commentators do. Some commentators, they make an explanation of a book and they'll twist and warp every hadith that goes against the madhab of their imam. And they say this is the explanation of it. Right? So that's wrong. I mean, just take a look at it like comparative religion. There are Christians who teach Islam and talk about Islam, Islamic history, different dynasties, so on and so forth. And when you listen to it, there's no Christian agenda. They're not twisting any information. They're not misinforming people. They're telling people the facts. That's a fact. They're not Muslims. They're Christians. And they're telling you this war, this battle, Islam is the Quran and the Hadiths. They'll tell you this. Because their job is to do what? Explain, not teach. Teaching is one thing. They can teach you Christianity. But they're giving you this is what Islam is. Not my opinion, my view, my taste, etc. Or, and this may be rare, there could be a Shiite person teaching Sunni Islam in a college. And this Shiite person may be impartial. He's not an extreme bigot or sectarian. This is the Sunni view and this is the Shia view. That's it. Everyone understand this? Versus someone, a Christian who teaches Islam, talks about Islam, twists it, warps it, interprets it to suit his Christian agenda or Sunni agenda or Shia agenda, right? Etc. Professionalism. And it's very important as a student of knowledge with regards to developing your career and maturing as a talib al-ilm is to learn how to navigate through the books. One of the most important things to obtain from your classes or your lectures or your teacher is how to navigate through the books. And a big part of becoming a serious student of knowledge is learning how to read books, learning how to buy books, learning how to research, and how to use books. Because the books are supposed to be a big part of your post-graduation life. Understand my words. Your post-graduation life. You've graduated from Azhar. You're now back in Detroit or Chicago. You're not in Egypt anymore. You have to continue your studies. You have to review. You have to teach. You have to prepare. You have to research. And a big part of that should be through your library. And that's why in Medina, there was the yearly book fair. And in Medina, there are tons of bookstores. And every year, they would give you an additional stipend for you to buy books. And when you graduate, there were many rich, wealthy people that would sponsor students to pay for their books to get shipped back home to their countries. The library of the student of knowledge is his life. He's done. He's finished Medina. You've graduated from the College of Dawah, College of Hadith. Now you're on your own now. You're in Trinidad or Jamaica or America. You're on your own. You can't call on the phone every 5 seconds. You can't make Umrah and Hajj, what? Every day, etc. You're supposed to live with your books, live in your books. But if you graduated the university, Azhar or Medina, and you have not mastered the skill of using your books, knowing your books, navigating through your books, which books are which? What's the difference between this one and that one? What's the difference between Qurtubi and Tabari? What's the difference between Ibn Kathir and Sa'di? What's the difference between Nawawi and Fath al-Bari, etc., 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 etc.? There lies no doubt. You're lost. And you've wasted a great deal of your talab. Everyone understand this? So it's extremely important to understand the author, the style, and the nature of the book. There are some explanations which the authors are bigots. And they differ in their percentage. 30%, 20%, some books 60, 70, 80%. I've read explanations of books. A Hanafi commentator of Sahih Bukhari, and he, through his explanation and commentary, makes Imam al-Bukhari Hanafi. Or Shafi'i. They'll twist and turn the hadith that can go in accordance with Shafi'i's way. And it's one of the things that Nawawi what? Doesn't do. He doesn't do that. He quotes the other ulama, he gives you the usul, and he mentions his school, what he's proficient in, what he's learned in. I'm Shafi'i, this is our view on so on and so on and so on and so forth. And for a commentator to explain the views of his madhab, sometimes and oftentimes it has nothing to do with the hadith, like we see here. Because he's mentioning different details that aren't mentioned in the hadith. And you as a student of hadith, comparative fiqh, you need those details. Those details fill in. They're the ligaments, the cartilage, the fat, the muscle between the bones. The hadiths are the bones, the main structure, the main pieces. But, right, Shaykhan? Arthritis, right? A corporal center, not saying you have it, but the concept, what? When that bone is not what? Their wrist is squeaky or achy, what? It's no good. And you still have your bones, right? طيب. When I was growing up, they encouraged people to drink milk and eat cheese and stuff. All in school and news, commercials, milk makes your body good. You need dairy, you need this for, nowadays they say is what? You can't eat it, you gotta eat almond milk or peanut milk or cashew milk or walnut milk or soy milk, or you don't need milk at all. Oat milk, synthetic milk, Allahumma musta'an. So you guys get the point. And I can't explain in words how important this is for a student, what? A knowledge. It's to learn how to ta'amul ma'al kutub. It's learn how to deal with the books, especially kutub ash-shuruh. And what to take from them, what not to take from them, etc. Right? So now Nawawi rahimahullah, who's Shafi'i, he says, قال أصحابنا, the Shafi'i school, the proprietors of the Shafi'i madhab, they say, if a person did not make ramal during the first 3 circuits, he's not supposed to do them during the remaining 4. Let's say you forgot to do the ramal, or you were tired, or you got a phone call, or you had to do something happened and you couldn't do it during the first 3 times, then you're not to do it during the remaining 4. You're not. Why not? He says, because the sunnah for the last 4 is walking, and the ramal is only mentioned in the first 3. Move forward. He says, so if he missed out on the sunnah, he's not supposed to change it in. Perhaps you can come across it. I can't give all my sources. If I gave you all my sources, you wouldn't need me anymore. So I have to hold on to something, right? I got to be stingy with something. What's important is al-muhim, the fact that I'm trying to get to, and why I went on this rant, inshallah, which is a beneficial rant, stimulating thought, right, navigating through a lot of the nonsense that you hear today, for or against. That's the point. I have an intention behind this. Is that the time of the Messenger of Allah was over 1,000 years ago. So much has changed. So in order for you to implement the sunnah, when to run, when to raise your hands, when to do this, when to make dua, when to pray, which direction, etc., a lot of modernization has been done. So if those people who modernized the Holy Lands, if they ignored that, and if they didn't care about that, and they just said, oh, just bulldoze it, knock it over, paint it, pave it, put tile down, get rid of it, blow it up, then many recommended and obligatory acts of Hajj and Umrah would be lost. But that's what? It's not the case. So that has to mean and prove what? Something. And if you're denying that or rejecting that, then you're just obstinate. You just want to stick to your view, your way. I hate these people, I love these people. Khalas. You get the point I'm trying to make? And we know the rising and falling of empires, there's always a reason and a cause. Right or wrong, but there's always what? A reason and a cause. And the people who revolt, and the people who make their own, they always feel that they're justified in doing what they're doing. That's the moral of the story, right? So therefore, when you make Hajj and Umrah, you're not going to find this Dar Fulan, Dar al-Abbas. It's different now. But there are signs, there are markings, there are things, there are maps. There are people that are there for you to guide you. This is where you do this. And this is where you what? Do that. You get the point I'm trying to make? And from that are the 2 green light fixtures when you're making the sa'i to start taking off, start running. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد. Are there any questions? We'll make the adhan, inshallah, and come right back.